Today, the Ontario government has tabled two motions. All pretense of us having a functional and representative democracy has ended with these motions. The first motion allows for a renewed state declaration of a state of emergency. The state of emergency vests all power into the hands of the Premier. It takes away all influence and all participation of elected members in the development of public policy. The second motion furthers this frustration of democracy. During the summer session of the legislature, if this motion passes, if both these motions pass, elected members will not be allowed to bring motions for debate. They will not be allowed to bring bills for debate. They will not be able to criticize the government or examine public policy other than at question period for 1 hour. To really get a sense of this, how this impacts people, all decisions will be left to Premier Ford and his COVID command table. In actuality, Premier Ford has abdicated his role and has, and I quote, Dr. David Williams and the COVID command table make all decisions. So all these decisions that we've seen about long-term care, about lockdowns, about restrictions are being made by a few unelected, unaccountable members of the COVID command table. You know, when I look at what's happened with COVID, I see this as a huge wave crashing on our society. There are those who are riding this wave, those who are benefiting from this wave, those people who have good incomes, good wages, good pensions, houses, and cottages, and they are riding the wave of this. But underneath, in the undertow, are the millions of people who are caught in the tragedy, the millions of people who have become unemployed, the tens and hundreds of thousands of people who cannot pay their rent, cannot pay their mortgages, who are facing bankruptcies and foreclosures, the small business people, the restaurant owners, the cooks, the servers. All these people are having their livelihoods destroyed, and they are caught in this undertow, and they don't have a voice. Those people who are riding the wave, these people where COVID is just a bit of an inconvenience, they keep promoting this extended affront to democracy, this extended lockdown. And for many of them, they're at home collecting their public sector wages, their public sector pensions. They're enjoying their backyard or their cottage, and they're not even having to go to work, but they're getting paid. And these same people who are riding the wave then are so critical and so condescending of all those people who don't have a cottage, who don't have their own backyard, who on a sunny day go out to enjoy being human and being in a park, and they dismiss them as dangerous people. I never thought I would ever be speaking about our province in such a fashion. I never thought that it was conceivable that a day like today would be upon us, where our democracy is threatened, where the livelihoods and fabric of our society is threatened. But here we are. And we can't forget, you know, through all this, we have seen the terrible consequences of long-term care. That's now been exposed. But there's harm being done that is not yet exposed. The harm of people losing their businesses. The hundreds of thousands of people who can't get needed medical attention, who have had their surgeries, their procedures, their operations postponed indefinitely. They can't see their family doctor. They can't get needed medical attention done because they don't have COVID. If they had COVID, our healthcare system will work for them. But anybody who needs an organ transplant, anybody who needs cataract surgery, anybody who is in pain and suffering with hips and knees or other ailments, they are caught in the undertow and are forgotten. The political class is riding that wave. The political class has forgotten about the people who we're there to represent. We have forgotten and do not see the harm, the injury, the hardship, the anguish that we're causing so many people. All we see is COVID and not people. You know, it's also astonishing to me, you know, when I see and talk to people that thousands and thousands of people who were on the mend, who had kicked their drug and alcohol addictions, who suffer from mental health. And I talk to them and I see them. And the relapse, these people have been unemployed. They're receiving relief money from the federal government. Their AA meetings are canceled. Their rehab are canceled. But the beer store remains open. The cannabis store remains open. The LCBO remains open. What do we think is happening to these people? What do we think? What damage are we doing to these people? I can tell you, we haven't measured the consequences of our actions yet, but they will be severe. They will be hurtful for all of us. There's just so many things that we're not seeing with COVID. There's the tip of the iceberg that we see, but there are far, far more unseen consequences going on. We have abandoned any notion and any view that during this crisis we should be critical. It has become close to unpatriotic to be critical of government during this crisis. It's as if we've self-censored ourselves and we have abandoned critical thinking during this crisis. It's astonishing. If there's any time when we have to heighten our examination of government, if there's any time for us to heighten our critical thinking, it is during a crisis. That is not the time to abandon critical thinking. And let me just give this little picture. I represent the riding of Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. It's covered by two public health units in Ontario. The Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington Health Unit and the Lanark, Leeds and Grenville Health Unit. The population of this area is approximately 400,000 people. During this whole COVID crisis, this period of time when we've said that we must close down our education system, it's too dangerous to educate our students and our children. When it's too dangerous to get needed medical attention, when it's too dangerous to have an economy that operates, where it's too dangerous to have social interactions with one another. In this whole area of 400,000 people, we have had 3 deaths from COVID outside of long-term care. Those 3 individuals who died from COVID had a median age of 86 years old. Those 3 deaths are justifies our closure of our education, our closure of our healthcare, closure of our economy, and the stifling of us as being human beings. It's astonishing. And why has the government not recognized that different areas have different needs, have different circumstances? Clearly, with 65% of all COVID cases in Ontario, in Toronto, and 3 deaths in Lanark, Leeds, Grenville, Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington, the circumstances are different. We can't be treated as a hotspot to the same degree with the same restrictions as other areas. But this all comes back. All these hardships, all this failure for us to function as a democracy, all comes back. All these decisions are the result of a few unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats who sit at a table called the COVID command table. Many of us don't even know who they are. We don't know how they operate. We don't know how they make decisions. But they have been empowered by our premier, who has frustrated our democracy, who has prevented elected members from doing their job. He has empowered this group of unelected people to make all these decisions that have caused such harm and injury and anguish and despair. And he wants to continue this path with these motions that have been tabled in the legislature. I am beside myself seeing what is happening to our province, seeing what is happening to our democracy, but most importantly, seeing what is happening to people, seeing what's happening to my constituents. This is unfair. It is unjust. It is unwarranted. It can't be allowed to continue any longer. We need to have a functional democracy. We cannot continue with this state of emergency. We cannot continue with an unelected band of unaccountable and unknown people making decisions for us that hurt us.